You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go back.
Hello and welcome back into My Wheelhouse. Today is June 4th, Cousin Cassidy and Uncle Jim's birthday.
Yeah, we got 8 and 16 days.
That's right. A couple days ago, it was my brother Dylan's birthday. We celebrated grandmother's birthday. June's a big day big month for McKee birthdays.
Happy birthday, family.
That's right. Happy birthday to family coming up. And not so happy tidings to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are down 2-0 in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, but they've been on the road. They haven't got home yet.
Yep. I'm sure it's something we'll discuss. More exciting game one than necessarily it is game two. Both have had segments where they've been more competitive than the others.
We might get to it.
Maybe. Sloan and Mike are back with me. Sloan, you weren't here last week. Welcome back.
I'm back. I'm back.
So happy anniversary to you
Yeah,
and
had
your
a
wife.
nice anniversary getaway. It was our 2-year anniversary, so that is cotton for anybody that knows. So
Cotton
my
gifts.
wife's cotton gifts.
Got you a t-shirt.
The first year was paper. This
Okay.
year is cotton. Because my wife is so awesome,
Oh, wow.
she got me
A Scary Terry shirt.
a Scary Terry shirt.
Wow, Scary Terry.
Nice.
Very
So
nice.
we'll
That's a
unveil
nice
that.
Scary Terry
Good
shirt.
unveiling.
And
Good-
it looks
good
like
cotton.
it's made of nice soft cotton, too.
Yeah,
I
it's-
like that.
yeah.
High quality cotton
So
for sure.
Yeah,
thanks,
really.
Chrissy.
Did you get her cotton?
Yeah, I did. I got her a canvas beach bag.
Nice.
But
Good
it's
cotton.
partly cotton.
Yeah,
so.
sure.
Her gift is better than mine.
That's okay. Before we get to the wheel, you got a chump. I know we talked
Oh,
about
yeah, I
it.
like that, Trump. So let's do it. I mean, I forgot it last week. I was going to do it if it turned my name up there, but Ben Simmons going Kardashian.
Yes.
Man, I'm telling you,
Well,
the
it's sort
curse.
of like a mark of success, right? But
Yeah,
then in
I
many
don't
ways,
know
it's
about
also
that.
like a mark of doom.
I like Shay's take on it.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, me and
he's
Mike,
doomed.
we were talking this weekend, and he said, I wish I could have brought this up. I forgot when you asked me Trump last week. I would have said Ben Simmons. And the funniest thing about it is, yeah, he now has been rumored, again, who knows, but he's been rumored to be in dating cahoots with Kendall Jenner?
Kendall Jenner,
Yeah,
yes.
Kendall Jenner. So, indirectly a Kardashian. And the reason why it's most comical is he was formerly dating Tanashi, who's like an R&B hip-hop singer, and he broke up with Tanashi because she was doing Kardashian things, except he said a different word than things, and she was doing those. And it's crazy for him to say that and then to leave that situation and go to a Kardashian.
Well, he's like, if I'm dating somebody who's doing Kardashian things, I might as well just date a Kardashian.
Who's actually good at them, I guess.
I guess they're really good at them.
I don't know. We'll see. It's interesting decisions. The curse has been real to every
This
player
is the
that we've
first
seen.
athlete that we've seen with a Jenner, though. So
That's
maybe-
true.
No, Blake Griffin.
That's true. Blake
She-
Griffin was
she's
with
fine.
Kylie.
She just
Oh,
left
Kylie.
Blake Griffin.
Okay.
No, that was Kylie though. That wasn't Kendall. I don't know.
Okay.
It's hard to keep track. They're all
It is
they're
hard
all
to
the
keep track.
same thing. Who knows?
Blake wasn't really doomed. I mean, he went to the Pistons.
Oh, that's not exactly the best thing to happen to
That's
you.
a semi-curse. That's a
Head to Detroit
semi-curse.
from LA or wherever he was.
Semi-curse.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
My
all right.
wife doesn't even know who Tinashe is. So.
Yeah, it's just-
and apparently her brother
Two
is
on.
now
Good
saying,
song.
like,
With School
why
by
did you
Q.
dump him?
2 on. Good song.
All right.
All right, NBA Finals.
Good
It
start.
is 0-2. The Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors won the first game by 10 points, although it was all because they scored 17 points in the 5-minute overtime. And the second game, they won by 21, correct?
And all because they went to overtime to begin with. They
Right.
had a very good opportunity to win that game.
Yeah, well, you got to talk about the reverse call and certainly J.R. Smith. I mean, that's kind of what the topic is
Right.
of game one.
So to run down in terms of who's at fault, and I think that the
few-
entire Cavaliers
sure.
organization, to a degree, is at fault. But we were talking to Cousin Matt about this, and he was saying, I don't think JR should be getting all this blame because he makes it seem like JR is getting 100% of the blame. And although he's the headliner, he does deserve the majority of the blame because he made the biggest blunder. Him getting a rebound, great offensive rebound, 4.7 seconds left when he gets this rebound. He had it.
How does Kevin Durant let him get that rebound anyway?
It wasn't.
well, it was off
wasn't-
the front of the rim. It came
it
straight
wasn't.
back.
Yeah, it wasn't a wide open layup,
Kevin
but
Durant
he had
looked like
the
he was
ability
flailing.
to take a very short range floater
He
or
could.
attempt a left-handed layup. Kevin Durant's back was turned. The other closest Golden State defender was behind him far enough where it wouldn't have been that contested. Maybe he would have got fouled. He could have missed it, but more likely than not, he would have made it. He didn't do that. He left the situation. Okay, so that makes him number one, most blamed.
Turn around and LeBron James is wide open too. I mean,
well, yeah, but
that would be my first instinct. Throw it to the best player in the world.
I think as soon as he takes a dribble out, I think it makes the number 2 most person blame
Timeout.
is Ty Lue.
Yeah.
Ty Lue needs to be ready to make a timeout call as soon as he realizes that there's something wrong and there's some sort of disarray. As soon as you see J.R. Smith get a rebound, not look straight up at the rim instead of straight at the ground and take one dribble, as soon as he takes that first dribble, Ty Lue needs to be ready to call a timeout. 3.9 seconds left. Get ready to do that. And then you keep going, and I think, for me, number 3 is probably George Hill because he should have just made the free throw anyway.
So, but I'll go with number 2 being, well, Ty Lue's the assistant coach, but I would go to the real coach and say that nobody else on that floor other than LeBron, and LeBron is mentioning is going this way.
LeBron knew that he was not with it, that he didn't know what
LeBron, if LeBron could go, he certainly could have won.
Okay, so he did that. So if you go back and watch the replay, yes, he did. So if you go back and watch the replay, LeBron was trying to direct him to either go back in the paint or pass to George Hill just to go backwards. Once he realizes that J.R. Smith is absolutely pooping the bed, he does turn to the official, calls timeout. If the timeout was called, it was too late, but he called it when there was more than 1 second left. He's doing this motion, and if they noticed it and they reacted to LeBron, they would have had more than a second left when LeBron called the timeout. But that's not the point because Ty Lue, it's his job to call a timeout and to recognize that something is wrong.
And you said he had a ref standing right next to him.
Yeah, well, the normal layout for referees at the end of the game, especially during a free throw, is to have one close baseline, one at the opposite wing extended, and one on the opposite end near the coach, just in case of anything. That way, they're evenly spread out, and one's close to the coach if they need to make a call. One's close to baseline, and the other one's on the opposite side, so they have essentially as many eyes and as many angles as possible. So Ty Lue,
if I'm Ty Lue, I don't want to go old Mark Jackson. If I'm Ty Lue, but there's 4 seconds left if they get an offensive rebound. Isn't he thinking call a timeout if we get a rebound?
He was in a good position. I'd let him make a decision going to the hoop.
Yeah, you let him make a choice first because his choice should be the easiest choice of taking a layup. And then when you realize that your player made an idiotic decision not to make the correct choice, that's when you step in. But it clearly just displayed and showcases Ty Lue's ineptitude to make the smart decision at the right time. In today, a video surfaced a footage of, it was like a 2-minute stretch of the bench right after the buzzer sounded, right after J.R. Smith, who eventually got the ball back to George Hill with not enough time. I think he caught it with like 0.8 seconds left. Draymond was already in his grill, and he didn't have enough time to get a good shot off. He got a shot off, but it wasn't even close. And the video that came out today was of the bench. It was just a shot, and they have JR sitting down, and you got Tristan Thompson standing next to him, Kyle Korver standing next to him. There's a seat empty between next to JR, and then there's LeBron James, and they're sitting there. Everyone's in dead silence. Kyle Korver claps every once in a while in this 2-minute video. Ty Lue comes up, and you can see LeBron going, "Why no timeout?"
Right.
And you can't see what Ty Lue says, but if I had to guess based off LeBron's reaction, I think Ty Lue said, "I don't know." And
Is that where LeBron covered his face?
And LeBron gets. He cripples. He's devastated,
yes.
and at that moment he just got failed by 2 of his teammates. One not making a free throw, which is excusable, and the other one making a much less excusable blunder. And then to pile it on top of that, to know that not only does your starting shooting guard, not know the score of an NBA Finals game where you just put up 51 points, that your coach doesn't know that you have a timeout, or if he did know that he has a timeout, doesn't know that it's the right situation to call that timeout.
And your 81% career free throw shooter can't hit the second free throw.
How just demoralizing is it for LeBron James?
Especially considering,
if I was him, I would have started crying right there. That moment for him watching that.
Well, especially considering that was
his head and almost.
I think if
and Korver was clapping, was crying, pep everybody up because LeBron is looking at him.
Yeah, Korver's the only one that tried to high five J.R. Smith. Korver's a great guy. He always tries to use that veteran
going into the overtime
to uplift people. But I mean, especially considering that is. If they win that game, I think that might be the best finals performance that I've ever seen by LeBron.
It might still be the best. Never mind by LeBron.
It still might
that might be the best individual finals performance by anyone ever. Maybe that
close,
you could
close.
say it's there.
The
only reason you can't say it's definitely is because they didn't win.
Yes.
That's the only reason you can. If he did, it would have been unquestionable.
And I would say, following up on that going forward, what it reminded me of that defeat. I think it sets Cleveland up for a real fall in the series. It reminds me of the first game, Toronto and Cleveland, where Toronto had the 5 opportunities right at the buzzer and didn't get it, and it destroyed them. It was over for Toronto. You can't lose a game like that
I sure hope
in that
they're not the
situation
second coming
and
of
not
Toronto.
carry the burden of that going forward. That's a kiss of death.
Even in that same game, going into overtime was a good display in terms of a micro parallel of what the entire series is going to be, where the Golden State defense became so much more staunch and so much more strict on LeBron James and his ability to penetrate to the hoop, where previously in the game he was getting attacked by 2 people on the drive, and the defense was front-loading to where he was going to be ready to penetrate, and they were preparing for a kick out to a shooter, but they were leaving people more space that was more likely to miss it. In overtime, it was so over-dramatized, and it was so focused that LeBron, we know you can make an amazing pass, and we know you can get a pass right in someone's wheelhouse ready to make a 3 right away, and they could be wide open because of how good this pass is that you make, but we're going to make sure that that's the only thing you can do. And we're going to make sure that we're going to put all the pressure on these people that have so far in this game have failed you miserably, and it was so evident. And if you watch Durant and Draymond Green, I love their defensive scheme, and it had happened so more and more readily. They did it in Game 1 and in Game 2.
But overtime, the first quarter of Game 2 was still there.
They went back to it. But overtime was when I saw the most consistent stretch of it, is when they're basically on the free throw line, elbow to elbow of the paint, and they are leaving the Cavalier shooter. It's usually Jeff Green, and it was usually J.R. Smith. They're leaving these 2 guys wide open with 8+ feet of space.
Should leave Jeff Green wide open the entire game.
But that's exactly the point.
He's 2 for 9 every game.
Crucifies
It's a perfect showcase the fact that if LeBron gets exactly what he wants, because he's going to do what the defense gives him, it's still not going to be enough because his team fails him. And I feel so demoralized watching this finals.
They had
LeBron
19 offensive rebounds.
It's sad.
But I got to question things
it's really hard to watch.
Why did he ever hitch his wagon to J.R. Smith? I mean, hey, you got throwing soup in a coach's face this year, $50,000 fine for tying sneakers on the foul line. Why does LeBron hitch his wagon to this guy?
I mean,
you pay the price.
He had a couple of years in New York where he was
making an idiot.
He was a premier scorer in New York. Yeah. And even when he didn't have that much help.
Well, I wouldn't say premier scorer.
I don't know if he was always a knucklehead.
He never averaged 20 a game.
I think he averaged 17.
Yeah, and he was.
I don't know. He had a corner jumper from 3 last night where I think it completely airballed, and Chrissy was like, my wife said, "Wow, that was awful," and I said, "I don't think he's fully recovered from that gap in the first game." She said, "I don't think he's ever
could have narrowed his focus." I was thinking he was even going to have a good game.
Yeah, I was agreeing with Mike when we were talking about it. I think that if there was any player to just be able to overcome that big of a mental blunder in such a large, grand scale situation, it would be J.R. Smith, because he has such a just a malaise about him where he doesn't really care.
That's what he said.
He doesn't care about anything, and I don't think that he was that affected. Obviously, he was tormented to a degree.
But he wasn't good.
But I don't think it got to him the way it would get to another young player or something like that. This guy's 32.
Well, he's been asked about it hundreds and hundreds of times already, and he did say one time, he's like, "Well, if this was gonna happen, I'm glad that it happened to me because I can get over it," like you said.
The only thing I found that was interesting that he was saying that was actually sounded well thought out was he was talking about playing with LeBron, and he was saying how the greatest player in the world and on the planet, that he's got a lot of pressure on him, but we also have a lot of pressure on us trying to live up to LeBron's standard, and that when LeBron's playing like he's playing, you always got this thought in your head that, man, am I the one that's losing this game while LeBron is playing like that, and what is LeBron thinking of me? And I think that permeates throughout that whole team, that they must all feel that pressure, that LeBron is so great and he's so demanding that you got to live up to his standard. It must make it difficult. I think I'm just seeing
this is the same guy that when they re-signed Smith, they said, like, what is it like to play with LeBron? He's like, well, he's lucky to be able to play with me too. Like, J.R. Smith, in the end, he's a head case.
I think that JR has played really poorly. He only had 5 points last game. I think he only took 6 shots. A lot of them are wide open misses off LeBron passes. He's been extremely disappointing. Kevin Love has been fine so far. I thought he played well. He hasn't played great, but he's played well in both games.
They're bodying him.
Yeah, he's getting beat up, but
I think he doesn't get many calls down there.
No, he doesn't.
He shot better last game. It's good to see that.
And even on the defensive end, his ability to switch on the pick and rolls, he's done okay in those situations in terms of
I thought that was a weakness last game. I thought they did a really bad job switching on to the shooters last game, and the shooters. That's what Golden State shooters were pretty open.
Right. So the problem that I have with it is
on the screens.
So it seems like they're unsure whether they're going all out blitzing pick and roll, whether they're hedging, or whether they're trying to switch before the screen gets there, because it seems that they're confused in terms of what their player roles are. You see it with basically everyone on the roster, even LeBron James. LeBron James is at fault of this too, is that they're confused, and when they blitz, they don't blitz hard enough, and it leaves an open paint. And when they're blitzing, the player off the ball doesn't know that they're going to be blitzing, so they're not closing out on the paint, so it leaves the paint open. And blitzing the pick and roll is effective because you're supposed to be able to close it out, and you're supposed to be able to also, the other 3 players on the floor are supposed to close out the closest bailout options for that ball handler, for that decision maker. And if he makes one incredible play and makes the pass to the guy that's wide open the furthest away, that your defense will be able to adjust. And Cleveland didn't do that at all. We saw the first 8 possessions of the game.
Right.
What did JaVale McGee have 3 open dunks?
Yeah.
How many times that game did that same exact style play, whether it was Jordan Bell, whether it was Kevon Looney, the big man just getting wide open looks at the rim, Sean Livingston, because there was a miscommunication between their entire
JaVale
team.
McGee.
JaVale
McGee had a great game.
And I don't even think I don't think that he did that great of a game. I just think that it was just the Cavs did a bad job.
He was efficient, and he took away that low post dominance that Cleveland had in the first game.
I don't know. I think so. We should
19
give,
offensive rebounds for Cleveland.
we should give props to the Warriors. They played a sloppier game in game 1.
They played better.
But they played a strong one in game 2.
I thought Durant played a lot better in game 2.
Durant did play a lot better. His buckets came less from forced isolation and more from the flow of the offense.
When you see the shooting percentage,
Exactly.
it was like 10 out of 14.
Game 1 felt like it was like a feel-out game for them.
It was
and
more
they
like
ended up
he was
pulling
into
it
the
out
flow
for
of
a
the
win.
Golden State system better.
Cleveland's not going to have a chance
Finding
to steal
open
home
man
court.
and-
No.
It's not going to be a better chance than
I
that.
mean, I can't root against LeBron to not get one game at home, but I would not be surprised if
I'm
the
rooting
Cavs
for
got
Cleveland in general.
Yeah,
and I don't like
I-
LeBron as a person, but
I'm rooting for Golden State.
I think that if you look at the game Curry had, he set a record for 3-pointers made in a single
9.
game.
How many were in the fourth quarter? Like
beat
5?
Ray Allen, 5, exactly 5.
And it looked so effortless.
Some of them were just absolutely remarkable, and it's so tough to be able to scheme against him when you're cutting the lead to 4 points to 5 points, and then he comes out and just absolutely just douses you with a remarkable shot that he's one of the only 2 people. The other one might be Klay Thompson.
He's
in
fumbling
league
the
to make
ball
it.
and
It
hawks
was a
it up.
relatively close game
was.
until that
It was.
last flurry in the fourth quarter
was.
that buried them.
It was always teetering back and forth. It was 10 points, and then it would go to 6, and then it would go back to 10, and it would go back to 6. And it was something that you always felt like they were right on the cusp of breaking it to a tie type of a game. But every single time, it was Steph Curry pulling it out. It was Durant being able to get a go-to bucket. I continue to be completely underwhelmed by Draymond Green's performance. I thought he's not been that well in this
you
game.
didn't want to start that. I was going to kind of stay away from that. I'm fine with how he's playing.
Yeah, I don't think he's been bad, but I just don't think he's
I don't think he's been bad. We don't need to talk. We talk about
It's
too
what he's
often,
gotta
but,
be. I don't like how he's screaming at the refs, calling them their name every time they make a foul call. He knows their name. He
I
thinks
stated
that
my case on that.
he should get teched up every game.
Yeah, well, Draymond Green.
Draymond. He screams at the top of his lungs. He'll be like, "Come on, Mike!" I hate that.
Take a look at all the guys that played
Because
the way
he didn't
plays.
swear?
Even in the history of basketball, is it Dennis Rodman's played like that? Marcus Smart plays like that?
Yeah, but
just the type of players that play
They
like
get teed up.
that type of player, that genre of player that plays like that, he's the best. And I think the hustle game,
Draymond Green
he
is
plays
not
the
better
hustle
than Dennis
game.
Rodman.
I believe he is. And I'm watching him. When I'm watching a game right
Dennis
now,
Rodman is one of my favorite players.
because I don't have a
Can't
lot of
agree with that.
interest in that, I just watch Draymond Green. And Draymond Green
be horrible.
is my favorite player to watch right now. And I'm not apologizing for it. I think he's a tremendous player.
Steph Curry
And
was
that
9
he's
of
played-
17 from 3.
He had on that. They won a championship without Durant and with Green. He's adjusted to Durant being there. He's got Durant, Curry, and Klay Thompson. He plays his role on top of that. Nobody plays the hustle game. He's better than Marcus Smart.
Nobody begs for attention more than him, I don't think.
You look how much his players like him, how much the coach likes him, how well he communicates to his to his teammates.
I don't know.
Have you watched the conversation with Shaq and Charles Barkley yet? The 11 minutes.
I didn't think that he owned the conversation.
I thought he did. I thought he.
I thought even if you came away from that conversation, think that he owned that
Not
conversation.
that
That's not that big of an
the fact
advantage
that
to
he
be
was
able to win a
calm,
conversation
cool,
with
and
Shaq and Charles
collected.
Barkley.
Calm, cool, and collected when things were coming at him. he had control.
Well,
of
we're
that
clearly stuck
conversation.
with him, and
He
we're
had
clearly
control.
stuck with your fascination for him. So.
I think that it's
but
really.
as you say this, the guy is averaging.
I think he's good.
He's averaging 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists.
I think he's good, and
he had 5 steals
he's
in the
great
first
in his
game.
role, Mike. You're obsessed with
Why
him.
is that a role player that averages 12 points, 11 rebounds, 9
Well,
assists, and
we've
4
said
because
steals?
he's
That's
the-
not a
because
role
he's-
player.
because he's the
and,
whole-
and he's not going to. And because the other guys do all the shooting, and he's got all that going on. He is playing a complete game out there all the time. And some of the stuff you guys don't like that he's subtle at, it must be the coach in me that sees, but he's making these hockey passes all over the place.
You're forgetting that he's on the best offensive
they're
team of all
important.
time.
That what?
He's on the best offensive team of all time.
He works that team. They didn't have Durant when they won a world
I
championship.
could
without
go up
him.
there right now and get 5 assists with
Just
that team.
watching his game, he plays a beautiful game, and he really does. There's times when it's so simple that he gets the ball, and as soon as he touches his
I've been with you
fingers-
on this.
I was telling Shay, one of the hardest things to coach is making that second pass. And he makes that, when that ball touches, he already knows where it's going, as good as anybody in that league. When that ball touches his fingers, that ball
You know
moves to
what
the next
must be
player.
so hard? Being an awful shooter and just knowing magically
He
that you
doesn't
need to
shoot a
pass
lot.
it right
He
away
only shot
because you
4
know
shots.
the person who's going
Shay,
to
he
catch the
shot
ball is
4
going to be either the
shots.
best shooter of all time, the second best shooter of all time, or maybe the fifth best shooter of all
I'm
time.
not
Are
going
you
to
joking?
go. I'm not going to go
He
Three
is the worst. He
Stooges.
might
I'm
be
not
the worst
going to go
offensive
Three
player in the-
Stooges on you today.
You
I'm gonna-
overrate him more than anybody.
I'm
I've
not
ever-
overrating
and
him.
he's already an overrated player.
Why is he an overrated player? Second team all defensive player of the year last year. 2 world championships. He might have 3 world. The only thing I'll hold against him, and Dan said it last night, is they would be going for 4 in a row right now if it wasn't for Draymond Green. Because Draymond Green,
'cause he's a
when they were up
knucklehead.
in that series, they didn't beat Cleveland because he got suspended and he
was
kicked on
kneeing people
LeBron
in the-
and LeBron.
I honestly
or they'd
think-
be going for 4 in a
Mike,
row.
I honestly
And
think
if,
that-
if you're looking at that, he's a key, vital player to that team. They couldn't do it without him.
I think that they absolutely
Could not do it without
they
him.
absolutely
Absolutely.
You guys really believe that you remove him from that team, they're still at? No, they're not.
I
Believe me, they're
believe-
not.
2
I believe-
MVPs and
not.
the best shooter in the league.
I believe that you should feel embarrassed if he is your favorite basketball player to watch.
I don't want
Because-
Shay, I'm going to go Three Stooges on you in a minute. I'm
That's
sorry,
perfectly
stop
fine.
it.
That's
Stop
perfectly
it.
fine.
Stop it.
That's perfectly fine because
Slowly.
the things that he acts at
Inch.
on the court are so
Step.
are so
Slap, slap,
are so
slap.
remarkably
Pow.
foolish. So remarkably foolish. How he behaves in terms of what he expects, the lack of respect that he gives to the game and to the referees is abominable. The way that he performs after the whistle as if he does nothing wrong. Did you see LeBron's eye in Game 2? Did you see LeBron's eye in Game 2?
Yeah, but that was inconsequential the way that happened.
Okay, but I agree it was inconsequential.
Well,
he
so
didn't mean
so
to
so-
stab him in the face
no,
with his
he
eyes.
didn't.
He didn't. But did he think he did? Because either Draymond Green is the most
How many
ignorant human
players
being
in the
of all
league-
time.
how many players in the
Zero.
league we lost there
Zero.
like
If you
that?
slap someone in the face, you know you did. You don't blatantly complain, rub to left,
Okay.
yell
what
at him,
I'm saying
demean
is that
him, disrespect his
and
ability
Shay,
to
when
make
you're
an
doing
obvious
that, and
correct
you're
call.
it blinds
It
you
was
to
a nice
how
slap.
he plays. So when you look at that, and I understand, I don't like his attitude. I don't like what he did to LeBron. I don't like that he lost. But you're not watching him play.
Plenty
And
of
when
times I've been with you, and when he said he's bad, and I've said that's a terrible take. I've been with you, and I've said he's good, and he plays well in that role. He makes that team better. But you seem to always take it a step further, saying that he's your favorite player to watch on
He's
that
my
team.
favorite player to watch in this series.
They could
I
not
didn't
do
say
it
he's my
without
favorite
him.
player.
I think that's
They could-
insane to say that they
that's
can't
so
do it
bad.
without
I'm
him.
saying he's a vital cog to that team. He's a key ingredient to that team.
There are
That's
quite a few bench players in this league that
Name
Steve
one.
Kerr could,
Name one.
could
Justice
take.
Winslow, Julius
No
Randle,
way.
Marc Gasol.
Look who you said. Justice Winslow. You got to be kidding me.
Absolutely.
Why?
You don't
he
think
could be a Draymond Green.
On
You don't
that
think
team,
Steve-
absolutely.
No way.
On that team, absolutely. Are you
No
joking?
way.
Steve Kerr is a great coach, and you got 4 people around whoever you put in that role, and they are going to adapt and become
It's
what
like
you need
you,
of them.
you saying
I
you
watch
no,
him play.
you
I
say-
am watching
know.
him
Klay
play.
Thompson,
I'm
Steph
watching
Curry,
him and
Kevin
nobody
Durant.
else.
I know. Me too. I watch just Draymond all the time, and I want to jump through a window when I watch him all the time. But the thing is, it's like you saying that he's your most
in
entertaining player
the
to watch
series.
in the series.
That's what
That
I'm
is such
watching.
an insult.
No,
to
it's
every
not.
other
Because
great player.
I'll tell you why it's not. What it is I could care less about Golden State and about Cleveland. So I'm looking, because of this show and because that I never would watch this if it wasn't for this show. So I'm looking for something to grab onto watching this, and I've decided that what I want to grab onto is watching Draymond Green.
Maybe just
That's
'cause
what
you-
I'm
maybe
enjoying
just 'cause
doing.
you
I'm
wanna
enjoying watching Draymond Green's
Do the
game.
Cavs win a game?
I'm game
I think the
game
Cavs
for this whole season.
probably
I've now
win-
watched
All right, we're
12
off.
games
We're off the
of
Draymond.
Green.
We're
and
off the Draymond.
I know that Draymond Green is a good player.
His bobblehead is not
Outstanding
welcome
player.
back on the show.
Outstanding
Cavs
player.
probably win Game 3.
I'm glad I
That's-
didn't bring the bobblehead to
It
me.
wouldn't have been allowed on the table.
They were too close to me.
So if they're gonna steal one at this point, because I think they're completely demoralized.
Game
but
3
usually, if it's not gonna be a sweep, if it's gonna be a 5-game series. Game 3 is the one that the away team.
Well, game 3, if that goes Cleveland's way, it kind of changes things a little bit. Obviously, if game 3 goes down, it's over. But I called it in 5. I'm staying with 5.
I think it's interesting to think about because if Cleveland wins Game 3, that will mean that they've outplayed the Warriors in the series. And it's
Yes.
interesting to think about.
They'd have the edge if they won game 1, but that's ifs.
It's so annoying. I
Outplayed. I mean, you have to outplay the entire game.
I
so.
would like it if the Cavaliers won because I think that LeBron has the ability to win an entire game himself, despite being the only good player on his team. But I just don't think it's going to happen. And if I had to guess, I think they're going to get swept.
It must
I think every team, in order to win a finals, needs to have 2 stars. And Kevin Love is
been okay.
good,
He's been
but he's
okay.
not a star.
He's not a star.
And then
I
he's
think
looking
you-
at
you
the other
can't-
side. The other side's got 4 stars.
Even though LeBron is just so much higher than any of the other stars in the league, in my eyes, he's not.
Why is,
he doesn't have 2 stars.
Why is Kyle Korver playing the same amount of minutes as Jordan Clarkson?
Because he sucks defensively. He's been exposed.
Yeah,
And
but
not
Clarkson-
necessarily getting.
But
he does get a lot of
Clarkson kinda
fouls,
does
but
too. Clarkson
Clarkson shouldn't be playing at all.
Right, Clarkson should get 0
But
minutes. That's
I-
what I'm
but
saying.
I
That's
don't
what I'm
think-
saying. I think Kyle Korver should be.
I
at like
agree
20
with
minutes
you.
a game.
I
Korver
like
should be-
Clarkson when Clarkson went at LA. He had some real good moments with LA this year.
Corver took 3
Has
shots.
he had any good moments on Cleveland this year?
No, something's happened when they come to Cleveland. I don't know whether it's LeBron being God, and then they come and they can't. I mean, look, none of them have really. I mean, maybe Nance.
yeah,
Look
Korver
what's
took
what's
3
happened to
shots
Wood. I
yesterday.
mean, look,
He
took 3
Hood is
shots.
invisible.
If I was Ty Lue, I would replace Clarkson's minutes with Hood's minutes.
One of the
I would play
problems
Hood.
is
Try him
that-
out. What do you have to lose?
In
Throw him out there.
game 1, LeBron
Play-
had 51.
Play Chetty.
He got 17 open looks for his teammates
Yeah.
from 3.
Yeah.
They went 3 for 17
Yeah.
on the open looks that LeBron gave him. This is why I feel bad for LeBron. This is why I'm rooting for him.
I'm never going to feel bad for him.
3 for 17 on
How
open
can you not
looks.
feel bad for him in this
I just
situation?
don't.
How can, after
It's
watching
LeBron.
game one, how can you not feel bad for him?
Oh,
Don't
speak
feel
of him.
bad.
How can you not feel bad?
Speak of the devil.
All right, where's he going next year? Because he certainly isn't going to be on
that's
this
a good
junk ball of a team.
That's a good one.
Junk ball.
Okay, it's either.
I talked a lot, say
You ready? Okay, it's either going to be. I'll run through the possible teams. We got Houston.
Houston.
No.
We got Philadelphia.
Yes.
We got
San Antonio.
San Antonio, I guess. Yeah, San Antonio. I feel like that's kind of like it. Like I don't know.
LA Lakers?
Like, I don't think the Lakers are up.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
why.
I think that's probably it.
The Lakers have too many strings to pull. Not that they couldn't do it. The Lakers team next year could be a completely different team. They could be the fabric of that
Well,
organization.
Cleveland,
They
you
could
said the
flip around.
Cavs.
I really think that they have maybe like what? a
What
1%
about
chance? A 1%
what
chance?
about this? Thinking outside the box.
Okay.
New Orleans Pelicans.
Okay, how do they do it? They're pretty strapped for money. What are they doing?
They're gonna have to shuffle some stuff around. but I
but
mean,
Del
imagine him with Holiday and Anthony Davis.
Del Demps has proven
Well,
to be one of the more inept GMs in the league. I don't think he has the strings to pull to do
The
that.
obvious one is so strong that you got to feel as though he's on his way is Philadelphia. Philadelphia is such a strong fit. And what I liked is the analogy of, say, Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is that when LeBron goes there, when he goes to Philly, the first 2 or 3 years he's going to be there, he's the king. And now these young players, they follow him as he leads them to championships. Then when he gets to be about 36, the young kids, now they support him as he's waning, and he can win a couple more when he's 36, 37, and 38.
Yeah, I can
because the young
imagine-
guys are up. That's a pretty decent scenario.
I can imagine
for him.
Ben Simmons as LeBron James's protege. I mean, Ben Simmons is already. We've talked about how he's a top 10 player.
So LeBron's-
imagine under LeBron's tutelage. I mean,
And
he
that,
would
that
be.
gives you like
he
a
might
five,
end up
well, it
with.
gives LeBron like a 5 or 6 year window to win championships.
And
I
Ben
don't think
Simmons
you can
might
get
end up
that
with
anywhere
Courtney,
else.
Kim, and Chloe by then.
So I think it's interesting to think about. I think that the 76ers are probably the smartest decision for him to make. A lot of people knock that off immediately because they think that there's too many similarities in the game between Ben Simmons and between
But
LeBron
we already
James.
saw Ben
And I
Simmons
disagree
move
on
off the ball.
But I agree.
Against the Celtics.
We saw him do that, but we haven't seen him do that enough. And I think that that's going to be an unpenetrated aspect of his game that I think that LeBron will be able to unlock. So we're going to have the moments where Ben Simmons is going to be, the moments where LeBron James is going to be the ball handler. I think Ben Simmons is going to be learn to be a very effective off-ball player, specifically in the dunker spot. He's going to be great at crashing the hoop off of LeBron drives. He's not going to be the person that spreads the floor because it's obvious about his pitfalls in terms of jump shooting. But then on the flip side of that, when Ben Simmons is the play initiator, we're beginning to see more and more of a LeBron James that looks to be probably projecting as a phenomenal spot-up shooter later in his career.
And a post player.
A player that's going to have a diverse post game.
What a tremendous shooting year he has had.
If you think about balancing the 50-50 in terms of the roles of playmaking on that team between Ben Simmons and LeBron James, probably two of the best, 3 play initiators in the entire league, top 5 play initiators in the entire league, while on the other end of that, the other player is still doing something effective. I think that's a magical pairing.
Yeah.
I don't think that they clash. I think that they mesh perfectly.
The last 5 years in Karl Malone's career. I mean, Karl Malone is one of the top scorers in the league history, and what did he do in the last 5 years? He was just a phenomenal post player who used his smarts and his strength to sort of overpower physically and mentally defenders. I think he can absolutely rely on that. He's gonna be 34 in December.
The one thing
you can't play on the ball your whole career.
No, you can't. And we're seeing him now with the load that he has to take on. We're seeing a level of fatigue. I don't think he's tired overall. I just think that
he's playing 45 minutes a game.
He's more frustrated and exasperated than he is actually tired. But but it's a combination of those things. And I think that being in a situation where you can be on a team with 2 top 20 players, Joel Embiid as an already established top 10, top 12 player in the league, that's going to help so much with his load in terms of balancing that off. As long as you can surround those 3 guys with other tertiary pieces that are great at their specific role. I think a player like JJ Redick would fit perfectly into this situation. Covington might have to move because of his contracts, but a player of his ilk would be something that they should look for. Saric as well. So they have a lot of interesting pieces there, and then I think that they should attempt. Another biggest pull for Philly, in my mind, is that they have pieces additionally where they could flop them and switch it over to bring in a whole new supporting cast in terms of player 4 through 7 or whatever it is to better help LeBron. And even they could even target a player like Kawhi or Paul George if they wanted to. They could. Right now, with their second and third best players being Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, those guys are under contract controlled with smaller deals. So that means
you just don't want to jeopardize your ability to hold on to them. But I guess if you build a super team, you're going to be able to hold on to them. But you want to be able to assure Embiid and Simmons that you can afford them in the future.
Decision 2.0.
Okay, so let's flip it. Why would Houston make more sense? Maybe LeBron was looking back. He watched the Western Conference Finals. He saw how far this team with a defense that was perfectly tailored to try to handle the offensive superpower that is the Golden State Warriors. He saw this organization that was led by his good friend Chris Paul, and how they really could have used Chris Paul in the late games where he was hurt, and how he's thinking, hey, if I was on this team and if it was me in this game and I could have helped the load after Chris Paul went down, I think we could have made it past them there. He sees James Harden as an MVP of this league this year, even though he probably still thinks he deserves it.
Yeah.
But James Harden is a better player than Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid right now.
They had the best record in the league.
Right.
They had a phenomenal defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they were playing well on both sides of the ball. They're well coached. They have good role players. They're building this team to beat Golden State, and obviously you bring in the best player.
Harden's played below standard in the playoffs.
Of course.
Why?
But who's the second? Who's this?
Because Paul was out, or
But Mike, who's the second most dominant player when out on the floor in the playoffs? At least as proven this year. Well, I guess you could say Curry and Durant, but I would say Chris Paul.
For the entire playoffs.
Chris Paul made absolutely amazing efforts.
Yes, he did, and he was playing real well when he got hurt.
And he did it without Harden, and he did it, and then went to the sidelines and was interviewed and said, "Well, my buddy Harden, he's under the weather." He was lying for him. Yeah. That's how much of a team player he is.
I think that James
Teammates
Harden
don't like Chris Paul, and you know that.
I don't know how they don't.
I think that storyline is really overplayed.
I don't think it is.
I think that he butts heads with people that are maybe not as mentally dedicated as Chris Paul wants.
Or mentally tough.
And I agree. And I think that that's why there was issues with him and people in the Clippers, because they were more focused on the lifestyle aspect of it than necessarily competing for a championship, and that obviously agitated CP3. But in terms of what you're saying about James Harden, I think if you brought LeBron James, kept Chris Paul there, I think it would be really hard to really be able to maintain Clint Capella because of how much money he's going to get offered. So he would probably have to leave, and they would probably have to scrape the barrel for a mid-level exception center.
Goodbye Ariza, too.
Ariza would probably have to leave as well, but that's okay if you could maintain PJ Tucker and Eric Gordon and some other really just nuclear off-the-bench players. And hopefully that someone would appreciate the allure of coming and playing with Chris Paul, LeBron James, and James Harden. Then they could bring
Aaron Baines would be a good fit.
Exactly. Aaron Baines would be a great fit. That's a perfect example.
Oh, that makes me sad.
It does make me sad, but that's a perfect example. It's a hypothetical, perfect hypothetical example. But throughout the regular season, the reason that I think that we're seeing, or these last 2 years specifically, this late season struggle, late playoff lack of a push, lack of a ferocity from James Harden, is this system.
Tired.
This system is so tailored to him pounding the ball into the floor for an incessant amount of minutes. And he's like, if you watch, I don't know what the official ranking number is, but I'm pretty sure he has something like a couple thousand more dribbles, more than the second most player who dribbles the ball in the league.
Yeah.
And
Tough to watch in the playoffs.
It is hard to watch in the playoffs, but it wears on you, especially if you're doing it for full 82 games and you're doing it for all the playoffs and you're dependent on to be this offensive dynamo that runs this entire system. He's the entire offensive system for that team, and to be able to take off a certain possession here and there, play off ball, be one of the best off-ball threats in the league with his shooting ability, with LeBron James and Chris Paul as your offensive creators, that would help James Harden have that much left in the tank, even if it was a little bit left, for a Game 7 performance in the Western Conference
Finals. I agree
Finals.
with that. And I look at D'Antoni's. I'm a little surprised that D'Antoni's kept that style of play with Harden there and it hasn't already changed it by giving the ball more to Paul and moving Harden more off the ball and seeing what that looks like in terms of D'Antoni's style of play, because it's really not D'Antoni's style of play the way that Harden plays. I don't know about that team.
So the thing is, those top three.
Then they still got to go through Golden State. And,
I think it's a better situation. It'll be a better choice if they choose if you chose Philly over Houston. But I think that it might be more likely to win the championship next year if he went to Houston. I think for the long run, if he wants to win as many championships as he should, I think he should choose Philly. I think it's more likely to get a better supporting cast outside the top three players in Philly. I think he's more likely to be able to bring in more people in the future in Philly. And I think that if he's thinking, hey, what does it matter? I'm just going to be signing 1+1s anyway. Maybe he is going to go to Houston. He's going to sign a 1+1 there, and maybe he'll go to Philly next year.
Are there any dark horse candidates? Like say like a Minnesota with Tom Thibodeau?
San Antonio's a dark horse.
I think San Antonio's a dark horse candidate, but I still
just
think
because of Popovich and
well, they keep Kawhi and they build from there. And yeah, you got to. One of the things that I don't hold against LeBron, but Ty Lue was an assistant coach for Blatt. James ran Blatt out and virtually crowned Ty Lue the coach, and now he's had to live with Ty Lue as the coach for a year and a half. He's got to free himself from that, or he's got to, because Ty Lue is, I know he's having anxiety, but he should be having anxiety because
he's terrible at his job.
He's not really a head coach.
Crazy too to see his postseason record too.
Fired.
His postseason record as a coach, it makes him look superb.
He's no more a head coach than Pony or whatever he was from Milwaukee. He's that same type of coach. He's only a head coach because the other guy left.
I feel like
hey, he just got hired as an assistant coach for the Magic.
I feel like in 30 years our kids are going to ask us like, this
Ty
guy
Lue
was good. Who's this guy? And we're like, no, he was awful.
He was terrible. Yeah,
well, he won 2 championships.
I think it's really between Philly and Houston, and I think the only way he comes back to Cleveland is if Cleveland gets Kawhi Leonard. That's the only way.
Bad news for Boston, but the rivalry will be.
I don't know how Cleveland frees up their salaries to do something.
All right, so here's an interesting thing to discuss. I just wanted to get into potential rule changes that could make the game a little bit better.
Oh, okay.
All spurred off of news that came out this week that the league is going to be experimenting with be able to essentially like throw a flag.
Coach challenge.
They don't even know how they're going to do it.
Exactly. They don't know how to do it,
flag.
but it's going to be implemented in this year's summer league, and it's going to be something very interesting to focus. It's going to be very interesting to focus on when they can throw it, how many times they can throw it, what the penalties are if you get it wrong, what the success is. and how it goes. And I think it's obvious what we know would have been challenged already in this series. But I think there's a couple things that we should look more
We would
into.
have been challenging the challenges.
Yes, I think that, yeah, that's interesting. I think that the difference between intentional fouling and just wrapping up is something that they should focus in on. It's one of the very few things that Van Gundy gets irate about that I actually agree with him on, is in the game when there's a transition, it's a fast break, but it's not a clear path foul because the other team has a defender back. But I think it was David West that did it. He did it to, it was either JR, it wasn't LeBron, it was either JR or Jeff Green was dribbling up. They had a 2-on-1, and David West was behind him, wraps him up. And it wasn't an intentional foul, it was just you could make, and that happens all the time, where they really stunt the fast break for the other team, and there's no benefit for the other team, especially when they're not in the bonus. They completely take away the advantage by just hacking it and essentially doing an intentional foul. So I think they should touch on that. I think that they need to get more strict, and they just need to be more clear about how to judge the block and charge call. I understand it's one of the hardest calls in real time to make for a referee, but I think the consistency is just not there. And then I don't know. I think that there's been so many games these playoffs where I've been like, the refereeing wasn't there for me.
You're just holding your head.
Yeah,
like,
and you're just like,
what?
how is that making that call? Like for instance, in last night's game, and he did it in game 1 as well. Steph Curry feels contact and throws up a left-handed shot.
Yes.
They didn't call foul on this one. They did call foul in game 1, but he threw up an airball, went out of bounds. The ref realized, oh, Steph Curry just airballed the shot where he wanted a foul. We have to give him the ball. The only way that we can give him the ball is by saying it was tipped. Blatantly not tipped. It was very obviously not tipped. And I think that this...
It's like a makeup.
Yeah, it was a makeup call, and I think they should get rid of those as many as possible. I understand that they're trying to give superstar treatment to their players.
Well, I guess under my mind, that particular call there is one that's bothering me a lot, because later on in that game, Klay Thompson, when he does his with Korver flying across him like that, I know they brought the talking head in there to clarify everything, but I think that's one of the most inconsistent calls going on right now. And most of the time, there's many more times it should be called on the offensive player than it is.
Yes. Because if we protect the shooter, we protect the shooter by saying that the defender cannot land underneath where the shooter has to land. So how are we allowing the shooter to edge in and then jeopardize the defender?
And
you can't jeopardize the defense.
Space. You're right. I mean,
the defense has nowhere to go.
The defender's going to have his space to land too.
Kyle Korver came off that screen.
Forcing contact.
Kyle Korver came off the screen, saw the gather by Klay Thompson, saw that he was about to go by a jump shot. He jumped straight up, going by him. Klay Thompson saw him in a position of vulnerability and jumped into him. It was a high IQ based off of Klay Thompson, but it shouldn't be something that he should be allowed to do.
That play continues to piss me off.
And it wasn't very long after that the reverse happened down the other end of the court. Where the same type of thing happened, but they just let it go. They didn't even call it at all.
Yes.
So it's very inconsistent. Along with these rule changes, I think there's two things that I see that's going on with it, and that to me are interesting. And one is those last 2-minute reports that have been coming out.
Oh, they got to get rid of those.
They've been really exposing the referees.
They have. That makes it so much worse.
And that's one of the reasons that I think they're doing this.
Fix it. Don't tell us about it. We already know there's issues.
What they're saying is right now is they're saying we're going to fix it by having the flag, and you're going to have because those last 2-minute reports are turning up. If you did it for 48 minutes, you know how many. And I'm in support of the referees. You've heard that before.
Especially with
it's hard. Their job's hard.
I've been a board official myself, and I know how hard it is.
You're going to all of a sudden allow gambling across the country. There's going to be a lot of people who are very angry at these.
You need to be more strict. You need to be more strict with the calls. I agree with what you're saying. It's just like Mike Breen on the telecast was saying, well, what do you mean? They can't be perfect. And I understand that. I understand it's hard.
Well,
but they should be much closer to perfect than they are.
Mike Breen is paid.
I don't really think so. I just don't think they should have the magnifying glass on them of that 2-minute report where somebody's all of a sudden watching in slow motion everything that's going on and holding it against them.
Mike Breen is paid partly to be an apologist.
Right.
You know, one thing that really bothered me was the crazy outlet pass to LeBron James.
Great pass.
He catches the ball like a wide receiver, but Steph Curry,
before he can land,
fumbling on Klay Thompson, goes right into LeBron James, a player of lesser physical strength then LeBron would get injured there. I
Right.
mean, he flopped into his
LeBron-
own basket, and I don't blame LeBron for getting up and being like, "What did you see there?
Yeah.
What did you
Obvious.
see?"
That was the play that Ty Lue got.
And then Ty Lue
got a
gets a tech.
That was a situation
That
where the
changed
game
momentum.
was closing.
Big
That was a
time.
huge 3-point swing, and then they get the ball after that.
You know
That was
what I
awful.
think would be interesting is
That was horrendous.
It was one of the worst calls.
Just following the scenario out. So on that play, watch that play right there. Ty Lue on the sidelines throws the red flag.
Yes.
What are the refs going to do?
They're gonna say
They're gonna say,
Are
"You're
they
right."
They're going to reconvene. They also have every right to say, "No, we're keeping the call."
Well, the problem is they're not going to be able to go back. Hopefully, they're not going to be able to go back and call a retroactive foul because I think that opens up a whole different can of worms. So what they'll have to be able to do is look at the out of bounds. Did somebody hit it out of bounds?
It's
I
a
think
difficult one.
A dangerous.
That's exactly where the
We
facts
need,
are
we need
go.
to see the
Well,
detail.
I
Yeah,
think a
you're
big-
right.
a
Ty
big-
Lue's throwing a flag on that play.
Yeah.
Of course, but a dangerous path to go down is to start reviewing judgment calls and start seeing things like in game 1 when they reversed a foul call. Like that is not good.
That's
That's like
You
if
shouldn't be allowed to do
That's like in football.
They changed that. I don't know why they changed that.
In football, you should not ever be allowed to review
So one
pass interference.
caveat to that.
In baseball, you shouldn't be able to review a strike
Sloan,
call.
you gotta say that what did happen is two refs made different calls on that.
Right. So what
So
usually
they had one
so what
official
usually
calling it
happens
one way and one calling
okay,
it the other
so,
way.
so it's
So they
interesting.
immediately got a problem. I'm saying
So
good call.
immediately
Yeah, no, so
Steve
usually-
Javy
yes,
goes
yes,
either
yes.
jump ball
So
or give him the foul.
rule set across for all referees to follow is if there's two referees that blatantly think what they believe to be the call is what is true and they disagree and the heads clash, it's a jump ball. That's what should happen. It didn't happen. Otherwise, usually what you see in an NBA game, two refs make a different call, they make eye contact,
Right.
they tell immediately who's more confident in that call, and they side with that person. More often than not, it goes to the side who's closer to the call,
I agree with that.
and that's usually what happens. For some reason, that's not what happened. What really confused me and perplexed me about the play is the reason they went to the monitor,
Yes.
the reason they were able to
It's the
overturn
only
it
way they
and
could
went
do
back
it.
to a foul is because they said,
circle.
oh, let's check if he was in a circle. But it was so obvious
was
that he
that
wasn't
far
in
out
a
of the
circle. He was,
circle.
what, a foot away
It's
from the
almost
circle?
like they use that as
But
a
he-
crutch.
I mean,
Exactly, it
So
was
they-
a crutch. It was a
they-
perfect
crutch
crutch
to
to
get
get
over there and review that
I think
call.
I would have been all right with it if they originally called a blocking call, but I don't like how they
Exactly,
changed it
yeah,
around.
yeah, it's fine.
Because I think he was still moving up when the guy was
think
already
he
in the
was too.
air.
Right, no, but it's interesting.
I think
to
it would have
about-
been the right call if they made it to
That's
the-
another
in
thing.
the-
They need to be able to clarify that rule more because technically you're allowed to move. You can move. Your body can be moving as long as you are in that position already. If you are in I think it's legal guarding position or whatever, if you're there and if you're established, you can, your arms can be moving or your body can be moving.
It sounds arbitrary. It sounds like a
exactly,
judgment call again.
Exactly. That's why it's annoying. They need to be
it's a
more cut
difficult
and
call.
dry about what you can and cannot do. And they need to eliminate whether you say, okay, you can't move, or if you're there first, or they just need to make it more obvious for the referees because it's so clear that what is out there now is too difficult for the referees to be able to make a judgment call in a split-second decision. And it's so obvious about how difficult it is because two referees are seeing two completely different different
And it
things.
stinks so much to not reward a defender who's really putting it all out there in
was
a
a good
clutch
defensive
moment.
play. He was moving, but
We've
it was a
seen
good
we've
defensive
seen
play.
Marcus
So
Smart
we're
get
seeing things
screwed
with
in
that
that
2-minute
spot,
review
too.
in the game.
I
And
think
the
they should
things
get
that
rid
we're
of it.
talking about right now about how controversial these things become when you put a magnifying glass on them. I thought it was interesting that Rick Carlisle has come out as the head of the coaches and said that they in unison are supporting the dropping of the flag. They're supporting the coaches are.
What the heck are you
going
gonna do? Are you gonna do it when in a fast break? Hold on.
That's what I mean. There's so much that you worked out here, but you've already got Carlisle stepping forward saying, "Let's go." All the coaches want to do
It'll probably
this.
have to be like the
You're gonna
next,
see it in
the
summer
next
league.
dead ball. It's really interesting
think
because
it's
where it's going to be. I bet you won't be able to call a flag on an uncalled foul, which is going to be an interesting hole
There's
in this
gonna be
adjustment. So I think we're going to begin to see.
To make it workable is gonna be a challenge.
The flag,
Oh, yeah.
the flag is going to be an interesting opening a door to I think more fouls being called in general because I think that the
and
coaches
less complaints, maybe.
hopefully
Maybe more of a
yeah, maybe a
watchable
more,
product.
it's just frustrating, and the refereeing and Game 1 more so than Game 2, but Game 2 a little bit. And for the gall and the audacity of the Golden State Warriors fans to refs you suck in that game. Are they serious? Are they? Do they have
Their
the lowest?
chance? You can't even make out their chance.
Do they have the lowest IQ in the entire world? Are they joking how rewarded
Oh,
they
it's
are by
California.
the referees in that
I'm
situation?
down on the Boston fans too. I think the fans have been horrible in this playoffs, and I don't understand. And you guys, your generation, you can feel this, and I'm no prude. And I
Boston
haven't been at
fans
all,
notoriously
but
chant
I've heard
stupid
it now
things.
Yeah, for
twice in there, where it's the absolutely FU.
Yeah.
Coming in unison from the fans with J.R. Smith, not
Usually,
FU, but the
Boston
actual
usually yells
word.
BS.
How is that happening? Is that your generation saying it's all right to do
it's
that?
everyone. I think it's
I mean,
everyone.
your mother's sitting next to you, your 5-year-old kid's next to you, and they're cheering
I
along with
generally,
you, saying dropping the
I don't
F-bomb.
see.
bad
I
luck.
don't see educated basketball
But it's
minds
not
like
just
ourselves
happening once,
doing
it's
it.
being
But
accepted. It's being accepted out there.
I'm
I
not
used to think
I'm not
Yankee
chanting at
suck
home.
was bad.
not everybody's saying is all Bostonians are full of class.
No,
you know?
definitely not.
No,
But
but,
it's interesting.
it's not the only time it's
They're also
happening either.
stupid because they yell out like they chant MVP.
I like
when Kyrie's
that.
at the line. It's like he's not the MVP.
Yeah, but
Well, I
really
like
bothers
J.R.
me.
Smith, the MVP
yeah, that was
stuff
a
with
good
J.R.
troll.
Smith
Good troll.
was really
Good troll.
cool.
Good troll. Good troll. But it's
I think instead of a red flag or a red flag in your sock like Belichick, it should be like one of those T-shirt rockets.
A T-shirt
so you
gun?
can like smack.
shoot the ref in the face
Get
with
the ref.
I'm
Get his
still
attention.
with the referees. I
think that would be
I think
great.
it's just a matter of sharpening their axe, having them
Maybe
continuously-
like a paintball gun.
Wow.
Is that too
They're
violent?
sharp. If you actually hear the referees talk, like that guy's pretty sharp that comes on.
Javy. Yeah, he's measured.
you
He's
know,
measured.
I mean,
What about
yeah,
like a water balloon?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
less violent.
Water balloon for sure. But it's interesting. If you, looking back in these first two games, the calls have favored the Warriors, but that's okay because they've been home, and to a degree, that's what you expect. It's just that in the nature of the game and the flow of the game, when the calls have gone their way, it's been so much more advantageous for them, and more likely than not, it's been in the fourth quarter. There was a stretch, I think there was 5 minutes left when the Cavs were up by 4, and LeBron stripped Durant, but that was a call. The next play, his arm was essentially dislocated, but it wasn't because of how hard Kevin Looney was hit, and then that call wasn't called. And there's just so many strands of that across the game in all different aspects that need to be cleaned up. And I understand that the home team should get favored, and I want the home team to get favored in the whistle, and I think that's a part of sports that should be maintained even if it strays away from perfect correctness 100%, because I think that is an advantage that home court should warrant. But we're seeing it really stray a little bit too much
What
far.
I find
too far.
funny
It's
is
too
that
far.
it kind of goes against the thought process that everybody uses, is that you protect the superstar.
Right.
Because I mean that's by LeBron. Those two players.
They weren't.
That was on LeBron James.
Right.
And that cut off. Those are all the
He was infuriated.
on LeBron.
He was infuriated.
Aren't they supposed to be protecting the superstars? Isn't that what they do?
The three.
That was odd to me.
In
That was
in
funny
my
looking
mind,
at.
the two plays that I said with 5 minutes left, and then the blocking call, what was that? A minute? It was a minute and like 8 seconds or 50
Yeah, there
seconds,
was
something like
less
that.
than 2 left.
Those 3 calls were, I think, two of the biggest, or the 3 biggest momentum. To the last one more than the previous 2, but those 3, and for them all to
So I
be going
guess we
against
could
LeBron
put-
is very unusual.
Really?
It's unusual.
Problem number 4 we could put on the refs because we had 3
That's right.
people
I'm
culpable
That's
still
right.
for that.
Fourth most blame refs.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
I don't
I
blame the
agree.
refs.
I always blame the refs. You always got to give a little bit of the blame for refs.
It's so hard.
If something goes wrong,
Such a difficult.
they have
thing.
such an ability to change
it's a good
the
one.
effect of a game. This is something interesting to discuss. Kevin Durant is, at minimum, probably going to finish his career top 20 player of all time. He's one of the best isolation scorers the league has ever seen. He's an MVP when he was in, even before he came to the Warriors. He joined this team that was a 73-win team. It was a choice disrespected by almost everyone except for
For a lot
Warriors
of
fans.
reasons.
For a lot of
They're
plenty
up
of-
3-1
plenty
in
of
that
reasons,
series
yes.
against Golden State.
Everyone knows the
that
stories.
team
Yes,
beats them, and then he leaves to go to the team that just kicked them.
Everyone knows the story.
That's a
of-
legacy issue in its own.
Everyone knows
Coward.
the stories.
That's
and
what you call him,
Yes,
right?
no, for sure.
I like
And
that.
So
Backstabbing.
it's interesting to think about moving forward. If Kevin Durant wins this year and wins next year, or wins whatever 3 more championships, if he finishes his career with 4 championships, one finals loss to the Heat when there was the first finals that young Thunder team made it there against all odds. Like, how is this going to affect his legacy? I think that because of this decision alone, he's immediately strapping his ability to be in the conversation for the greatest player of all time, which otherwise...
He's not in that conversation.
No, he's not now, but later on, he could have had the ability to be in that conversation, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, if he went his own way.
If he went his own path, if he went to San Antonio or to Boston, or if he stayed in OKC, or if he did something like that, And you can say that we're sour because he didn't come here, but I'm not. We turned out fine, and I think that it would have been a smarter decision for him on behalf of his career to make a decision that wasn't so short-sighted and kind of just embarrassingly cowardly.
He'll never be LeBron.
No.
He'll never take a team like the
is-
bad LeBron team.
So what is his ceiling
to the
in terms of
finals.
his legacy? That's
So
my
what I
question.
guess-
That's
one
my
thing
question.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel about how
10.
credible my brother Dan is, but I think he's one of the most credible guys that I talk to about basketball.
very credible.
His opinion is that Curry is the better player.
Yeah,
And it's right there in front of you, right there. You're seeing it right there. Curry's better than Durant.
Curry's the
It
MVP
actually
of this
bothers,
series
It
right
actually
now.
bothers Durant that Curry is the better player. And in terms of his legacy, Curry stands in his way there. The other thing is, Shea brought this up a long time ago, and I know it's not your thought. It's the alpha male thing. And the alpha male thing, when you're looking at the top 10 of all time, I can't think of a non-alpha male. When you start thinking Shaq, Kareem, Akeem Olajuwon, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Kobe, and then you put Durant in there, you say, DeRozan?
I don't know if he has it.
Durant?
I don't know if Duncan was an alpha male.
That's the only exception I could think of.
But I think
the
he
only
does-
exception, if you're going to put him in the top 10, it's the only one I can think of. So
I
that
think he's more willing to
not
buy
an
into the
alpha.
team, but I still think he's an alpha male.
Who?
Duncan.
Not Durant, though.
No, not Durant. He
So
said that.
I'm saying that his legacy-wise, that may affect his legacy, the fact that he's not, and that's what Dan says about him too.
It's interesting because I do agree, and generally when I'm ranking the list, depending on who you talk
They're
to,
all alphas.
depending on who you talk to in the league right now, LeBron's the best player. So players 2, 3, 4, depending on how you judge Kawhi Leonard, Steph Curry, and Durant, those are probably
Harden.
the top. Yeah, but
Strowman there.
yeah, but Durant and Curry
Yes.
are 2 of the top
Yes.
4 players in the league.
Yeah.
Put them where you want. I personally agree with Dan. I think his effect on the success of this, like as Sloan says, the greatest offensive team that I think we've ever seen. His effect to be the complete motivator of that entire system into Stephen Curry and essentially the parallel for why it's successful. And then we've seen why issues arise. Kind of connects to Durant, and if Durant has this negative lashback on the success of this team, even though they're still going to be successful because of the pieces that they have, it's an interesting thought process to have about Kevin Durant. I think he'll finish his career being a top 15 player all time because he's going to have so many statistical
Yes.
accolades. He's going to have enough championships, and he's going to have enough of late season performance on this team that it's going to be unquestionable to not give him some praise. But because of this choice he made, he's not going to be a better timeout player than Steph Curry.
It would have been so much
Steph
more
Curry-
interesting to
Steph
see
Curry-
him like take it,
Yes.
take a New York or a Chicago
exactly.
all the way up with him.
Exactly.
Steph
Curry
What
will
I
finish his
find
career being a better
Shane,
player
what
all
I
time
find
than Kevin Durant.
ironic is that it's actually LeBron that opened the door for what Durant did, because LeBron,
of course.
because before LeBron made decision 1.0, it was always the general manager and the front office that made the decisions to organize a team. LeBron decided that he was going to organize a team and bring Bosh down there and create it, and that's what opened the door up for Durant to do what he did.
LeBron was on many really crappy teams in Cleveland, though, and he had a really, really bad GM.
All I'm saying is that he changed the landscape by
Yeah,
creating his
of
team,
course.
and now everybody else is talking about it was LeBron that
It's
started that.
ironic. It's coming back to
There's
bite
nothing,
LeBron.
it's reality that's what's going on. But LeBron's the one
Golden
that started
State is
that.
just too good. They're
So
doing
it's-
all this without Iguodala, by the way. Imagine if they had
he's
Iguodala
probably
out
gonna
there.
play in the next
He's
game.
one of the best
is.
LeBron defenders out there.
It's
No
really
offense,
tough-
Marcus
it's,
Morris.
It's really tough to say, and I think that Kevin Durant's legacy obviously gets hurt by his decision to come to this team. But as time goes on, and that as more competitors
We're
arise,
the team that kicks your
yeah,
butt.
but okay, as more teams arise, so think about it.
Coward.
So he's moving forward, where we just discussed about how LeBron James is probably either going to go to the Philadelphia 76ers or the Houston Rockets next season. We've been discussing countless times about how legitimate of a threat for a championship even the Boston Celtics are going to be next season. To already think about those 3 potential teams or those 2 potential teams, that's just 1 year away for a threat to really dethrone this Warriors roster. That's going to be interesting to see how Durant responds, how this Warriors team responds. Because of next year, if the Philadelphia 76ers, the Boston Celtics, or the Houston Rockets takes them down, doesn't that hurt him even more? For him to go there and for him to kind of be maybe the reason in the microcosm for why that team crumbled, why that team that had the ability to be the best dynasty of all time didn't reach that potential. That's going to be a really interesting thought case to look into, because I think he could be that secret for why it failed.
Oh, he could even leave at the end of this year if he wanted to.
Yeah, but he's not going to because they're going to win.
Right. So that
They're going to win. He's not going to lose.
Just wonder, like, how many like finals games like what Curry had yesterday, or like what LeBron had in Game
Curry's
1
been
has he
having one
actually had?
quarter.
You
He
know, how
hasn't
many
had-
games like that has Durant had?
And Durant, you're also going to say that they won without him. And as you're looking at it, he didn't bring the championships to Golden State. They were already there when he came.
Curry said to him, "Hey, you want to win next year? Join us."
So I think his legacy,
Easy way out.
His legacy is going to be tainted unless he wins.
Makes Curry's
two more,
life easier too.
Probably
More.
2 more, maybe 3.
I think it's tainted no matter what.
It's tainted no matter what. I'll
All right,
go
so
with that, too.
we only got much time left. What are we thinking Game 3? Game 3 is on Wednesday night. It's at Cleveland. I'm picking the Cavs just because I want it to be exciting.
I'm with you.
LeBron's got 45, 15, and 9.
I think I'm going to go with the Cavs. I think Love's playing fairly well, and I think so. He does have someone. Him and Love are both playing well, and I can't see any reason why some of the other role players can't step up. They've been
Well,
strong
Nance has played well. Nance has played with
and they've been strong at
physicality.
home all season.
They have.
Nance
So-
is,
they've been
Nance is
strong
going
in
to
the
sing some
playoffs.
free
Well,
throws.
well, team in
out.
the
we'll have to
playoffs.
see. Hopefully his teammate can step up. Maybe we'll watch it together. We'll
Hit
see.
some
but-
open shots.
Yeah,
Well,
for real.
I told Matt I
That's-
don't know how I can watch it with you because I.
Yeah, maybe not.
You know.
All right,
and,
well-
and I think next week when they win, I may be bringing back the bobblehead.
He's not welcome
and-
on the show anymore. That's all the time we
That's
have
worse
today.
than I am.
I'll see you guys later. Thank you for joining My Wheelhouse.